God dag. Velkommen til Lenovo. Vi har valgt å gjøre det litt spesielt i år, i og med at det er 25-årsjubileet for ThinkPad i oktober. For 5 år siden så hadde vi en sesjon på det andre hotellet, hvor jeg ga dere litt informasjon om utviklingen på maskinene de siste 20 årene. Så i år så har vi bestemt oss for at vi har fløyet inn en amerikansk medarbeider i Lenovo, Kevin Beck, som er en storyteller og som jobber med dette her hver dag, så han skal bruke et kvarter på å guide dere gjennom litt mer informasjon om det historiske og hvorfor man har gjort som man har gjort rundt ThinkPad. Så hvis alle trekker ut midt på gulvet, så Kevin får litt plass der borte, så er det helt supert. Så kommer det til å foregå den retningen.
Okay, thank you everyone. I'm very happy to be here in Norway for my first time. And so what I want to do is just take you through a little bit of the customer-focused philosophy of ThinkPad in the last 25 years. I think many of you may know a lot about ThinkPad, so I'll try to tell you some interesting facts and a little bit of the history. So just to start, in case you were not aware, the design of the ThinkPad was decided about a year before the first one ever went on sale. So that was 1992 when it went on sale. This year is our 25th anniversary. So in 1991, when the team was put together, there were two groups. There was the Japanese engineering group, and by the way, we still today, 25 years later, all of the engineering of these is still done by a group of Lenovo engineers in Yokohama, Japan. But the original decision about the size and the shape and the color was made by a German designer named Richard Sapper with the Japanese engineering team. And so for 25 years, all of the ThinkPads have been designed around the concept of a Japanese bento box. So historically, they wanted something that would last throughout time, that turns out it's 1,000 years old, and it has this place in Japanese culture that when the box comes to the table in front of the people, they lift it up and they all have the same experience. It's just a clean black box, and they open it up and the goodness is on the inside. And usually the insides are red. So the team decided that the track point, the pointing device that we still use to this day, should also be red. But in order to make that happen, they actually had to lie to the IBM safety committee. Because at IBM at the time, the only things that were allowed to be red were the master on and off safety switch. So they actually changed the name of the color to something called magenta, and then every time they submitted a new design, they made it a little bit more red, a little bit more red. And at the end, they said, oh, maybe it's too red. They said, no, it's not red, it's magenta. So they felt so strongly about that contrast of colors that we have today that in order to get there, they actually had to lie about it a little bit. But I think we've been forgiven for that. And just a little historical fact, the rubber that was actually used in the first ThinkPad track point, when the team was doing the evaluation of how it should feel under the customer's finger, they went from, I think, about 20 samples to 10 to 8 to 4 to 2, and the final example, the final test that they did, they selected a grade of rubber that was actually used in roller coaster wheels because they knew it would be durable, they knew it would be that it would last, and it had just the right feeling under the customer's fingers when they used the track point. So I want to give you just a little bit of history from the very first ThinkPad, the 700C, which we don't even actually have one of here because they're so rare 25 years ago. But I did a little bit of math, and I have it written here, from the beginning in the 700C to today's X1 Carbon. The size of the transistors in the processor are 71 times smaller. That's current 14 nanometer process. The number of transistors that are in the processor doing the work has increased by 6,900 times. And the speed of the processor is 156 times faster over the last 25 years. So I say that to kind of set up this conversation about talking about how the focus on customer usability and the value that a customer gets from a mobile computer has changed over time. So just to go back to that original 700C, I don't know if anyone here ever used one, but think about in your head as a customer today what you're looking for in a computer. You want thin, you want light, you want high power, you want durability, reliability. And this has been a 25-year journey to that. That very first 700C, when it was released in the market, it was considered very aggressively, very good price at $4,350 US. And it was 3.4 kilograms and the height was 56 millimeters. But nonetheless, it was still considered to be a very groundbreaking PC because it was the first one to ever have an active color screen. And it really started a philosophy of ThinkPad, of customer-focused ThinkPad design that still continues to this day. So I'll talk a little bit about how we've moved down through time here. This is the 701C. So at the time that this was built, the standard width for a screen, or the standard diagonal for a screen, was 10 inches. And the IBM designers really wanted to bring something to the customer that let them have the full-sized typing experience, because that was something that was a barrier to having people shift from a desktop computer to a notebook computer. They were so used to typing in a certain way that when they had to go to much smaller laptops with very tiny keyboards, it was just something that people didn't want to adopt. So an IBM research engineer was watching his daughter put together puzzles, and he had this idea. So he took a keyboard and he took a saw and he started sawing it into two pieces and figuring out how it could fit together. So that is how we were able to fit a full-sized keyboard into a 10-inch notebook. It folded up. And we get asked many, many times why we don't do this anymore. Why did we never do another one? And the answer is technology moved on, right? The next generation of computers had 11-inch screens and 12-inch screens, so we never needed to do that again. But I think it was a very inventive approach to having a true customer, a true desktop-style customer experience in mobile computing. Because, as I said, when we look back in history, some of these things seem now to be so obvious, or they're even the day of needing them is past. And the next example that I want to give of something that is certainly no longer necessary is this ThinkPad 755 CV. I'm sure there are many people here old enough to remember a day before we had this kind of projector. Everyone, at least in IBM and I know around the world, used overhead projectors, just the big lamp that went through the mirror. And there was no way at the time to use a laptop to make that presentation. You had to print out your presentation, take it and transfer it to plastic and put it on top of that. So this PC actually had a removable back. So you can see it's transparent here. So you could actually fold this down and put it on top of an overhead projector and actually take your work that you did and work up to the last minute. You didn't have to spend the extra 15 minutes running to the printer room and transferring those printouts to plastic and then putting those plastic pieces on top of an overhead projector. So for us, this represented a true customer true innovation for the customers in terms of letting them save time and get more work done. And that's really what we've always been focused on in ThinkPad. I think we have some really great engineering. As I said, we still to this day have a team of over 300 dedicated engineers in Japan that design these products for us. But as time went on, we started looking at the ways, what was stopping the adoption of mobile technology. Because if the customer can't take their laptop usably out of the office and actually use it as a mobile computer, there's no difference to a desktop. So one of the key things that we introduced in this generation was the world's first DVD-ROM in a mobile notebook computer. And as I said, today we don't even have those anymore. Almost nobody does. But if you think back about the history of this time, with what amounts of data people could usably carry with them, this model came with a hard drive that was 5.1 gigs. And that 5.1 gig hard drive cost $500. So by having a DVD optical in this, we gave customers the ability to transport 4.5 gigs of data on a very thin optical drive or on an optical disc, and they could keep multiples of those and use for customer presentations, for multimedia, for movies, for entertainment, because we were still in the industry 3 years away from the first commercially available thumb drive. IBM brought out the world's first commercially available thumb drive in the year 2000. It cost $50 and it was 8 megs. So technology has definitely changed. So I would say one of our next big inflection points in bringing mobility to business users was the T40 series. Because it seems obvious now that everybody has access basically to all of their data anytime. We're past thumb drives. Everything is in the cloud. It's totally accessible. But there was a day when, even though executives and salespeople really wanted to have the utility of mobile computing and take it out of the office, the people in the IT side who had to worry about security and worry about data and confidentiality were terrified. Because all it took was somebody to lose this, and that contained so much more information than a briefcase could ever contain, that this was a terrifying prospect of letting customer data out of the building as far as IT people were concerned. So this was really an inflection point for us. It was the first line of PCs to have a TPM security chip, to have a fingerprint reader for password replacement, and also to have an active protection system in the hard drive. So we had a motion detector that was in the hard drive that would stop the heads from hitting the platters if the PC was dropped. And of course, today we have very few PCs that even support rotating hard drives anymore, but this technology is still used. The active protection system is still used to this day in modern systems like our Yoga and things to detect when the system is moving, so that we can do better power management when the system is on a desk than when it's on your lap, and make sure you always have a cool and quiet experience. And then our next major iteration was, as PCs became much more used in the industry and many, many more people carried them, they actually started taking their care that they took with the PCs went down. Because when you have the first new, expensive, rare thing, you tend to take pretty good care of it. But as they became very common in the industry, we found that people did not take very good care of them. So this T61 series was the first series where we looked at the innovations and the technology that were available in things like the race car industry and in high-end F1 racing. And so this system had a full magnesium roll cage to protect the system body, to protect the motherboard, as well as a full magnesium roll cage to protect the back of the screen. Now, that worked really, really well. But as we moved forward into the next generation, into the early 2010s, 2012, 2013, this obviously was not something people were willing to buy anymore because of the thickness and weight, right? You're looking at well over 2.1, 2.2 kilos, and probably something on the order of about 26 to 30 millimeters, and that just wasn't in line with modern design. So to finish this up, in modern day, we have now moved to things like the Yoga series. So there was a time in the industry when there were many different concepts. I'm sure some of you remember ThinkPads and computers where the screens swiveled this way, and there were old concepts for things that came apart in two pieces. But what we found is that most modern consumers that aren't going to use a tablet, who need touch screens and need to use a PC like a tablet to some extent, this Yoga form factor, which spins around 360 degrees, meets their needs very, very well. And we were the first, of course, in the industry to ever have this form factor, but also we are still the only ones to address the problem of how the keyboard behaves when the system spins around 360 degrees. So if you haven't seen this, I would encourage you to take a look. That when you spin it around 360 degrees, the keyboard actually retracts into the system to protect the keys. So again, something that we're looking at just in terms of making the usability better. And the final thing that I want to talk about is the era of carbon fiber. So I think now that we have something called the X1 Carbon, everyone is aware that we've moved away from things like magnesium roll cages and started using carbon fiber in these systems. So over the last 5 years, we've been able to take from the original X1 Carbon, which was about 20 millimeters thick and weighed about 1.3 to 1.4 kilos. We've now got something that's 16 millimeters and 1.1 kilos, right? In a fully functional, thin bezel design. And in fact, our team completely redesigned the system from the ground up last year to make the bezels thinner and to make sure all the usability was right, including a camera at the top, unlike some models that have cameras down here on the bottom that aren't particularly useful. And I'd just like to close up and ask if anyone has any questions, and just point out that over the last 5 years, this has really been an era for us of making things thinner and lighter, increasing the usability without any compromise to the reliability and durability. For the last 5 to 7 years, all of our ThinkPads have been military, US military mil-spec tested. And we've got some great ideas for the future. We're going to continue to look at the usability, the always on, always connected nature. We think laptops are going to become a little more like cell phones in that they need to be always on, always updated, always connected. And so as we come up to our 25th anniversary in October of this year, we've taken this chance to look back and see how the notion of focusing on customer value and customer usability has evolved over time. It's a very different thing now, the implementation of it, but I think the philosophy's very much the same, and we thank all of our customers who've been with us for 25 years. So, any questions for me? All right, thank you, Oystein. I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Så skal jeg bare bruke noen få minutter helt på slutten til å fortelle litt om en ny side. Jeg går ut fra at alle her bruker Also-webben. Ja. Det kanskje mange ikke vet er at Also har nå laget en egen leverandørportal. Så på forsiden hos Also så kan man nå klikke på en knapp som heter leverandørportal. Og der har vi i Lenovo spesiallaget en portal kun for dere partnere og tilpasset veldig det norske markedet. Her inne vil dere finne alt dere trenger når det gjelder Lenovo. Tilgang til partnerportalen, til bid-portalen vår, siste prisliste vil alltid ligge tilgjengelig her. Serviceregistrering. Alle løpende kampanjer og nyheter som vi har ligger og går løpende på toppen til enhver tid. Men dere kan også finne tidligere utsendelser og laste det ned der. Så der ligger det veldig masse fint innenfor hvert enkelt produkt som dere også kan bruke videre ut mot kunde. Vi har også inne på portalen selvfølgelig alle produktseriene våre. Her kan man klikke inn, lese faktisk litt mer om hvert produkt, hva den brukes til og hvordan den kan benyttes, samt at det ligger direkte link inn i e-shoppen selvfølgelig hos Also på alle områdene våre. Vi har også denne uka på mandag, kanskje mange har fått mail allerede, opprettet en egen brukergruppe for dere partnere på Facebook. Bare klikke på den. Her ønsker vi å legge ut ukentlig relevant informasjon fra dere. Skjer det endringer i leveranser? Er det ting som dere trenger å vite i forhold til partnerprogrammet? Når kampanjer kommer ut, så vil alt komme ut her. Sånn som dere har vel alle hørt om Fast Start, Shout og Sellout. Har alle hørt om det? Ja. Ingen? Da har vi noe å gjøre, altså. Det er kampanjene våre som vi kjører hvert kvartal. Fast Start går nå i september. Det er månedens fokusprodukter. Den kommer ut hver første uke i måneden. Her vil det ligge spennende produkter. Men kanskje det beste vi har gjort her, den vil jeg legge ut hver eneste måned. Her kan dere enkelt klikke på Fast-starten. Da kommer dere rett opp i en ferdig utfylt mail. Her nede ligger produktene som er på Fast-start denne måneden. Det er deres partnerpriser, men når den er åpnet, så kan dere legge på egen partnerlogo, endre teksten, legge til et produkt, ta vekk et produkt som ikke passer, legge på deres sluttkundepriser, og sende rett ut til kunden, sånn at dere kan være med på kampanjen, samtidig som prisene ligger der. Og det vil komme både når det gjelder kvartalskickoffet vårt, som kommer første uka i hvert kvartal, og alle faststartene som vi sender ut da månedlig. Så da vil vi følge med på den gruppa. Så det jeg ønsker er at alle i dag melder seg inn i gruppa vår. I kveld så er det jo en del spennende premieringer under middagen. Vi trekker ut en vinner av de som har meldt seg inn til en fullspekka X1 Carbon. Så den blir utlevert på scenen i kveld. Til en heldig vinner. Men Jan Erik, det skjer jo litt nytt på serversiden også.
Ja da, vi har vel hatt den største lanseringen noensinne på DSD-fronten på, siden vi startet da. Så vi kommer nå med 14 nye serverløsninger. Vi kommer med 7 nye lagringsløsninger, og så kommer vi med 5 nye top-of-rack-switcher. Alle da lagd for å møte dagens og morgendagens hyperkonvergerte strukturer i infrastruktur. Så, ja. Vi har også en liten quiz ute. Bare skanne en liten QR-kode, og så det med trekning av VR-briller, altså selvbyggesett av VR-briller. Så, ja.
Bra. Husk å spille Jedi utenfor.
Ja, det kan du også. Kan ikke Jedi ute og...
Det lanseres 1. januar, så her en sånn prelansering for oss å se hvordan Jedi vil fungere. Takk! Lykke til videre med dagen!